What's going on, guys? Nate here, and today I'd like to show off a game presented at E3 that I wish I could have covered more, but just haven't really gotten around to yet, and that is Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord. I briefly glanced over this title a few months ago in a list of games to look out for in 2017, and after looking at the game during this year's E3, I decided this title was more than worthy of its own video. The original Mount & Blade game came out over a decade ago, and it was a medieval open-world RPG that greatly broke away from what we're traditionally used to. It was one of the highest rated games to ever drop on Steam, and still retains a fairly active player base to this day. However, after 10 years, despite aging fairly well, the franchise is definitely overdue for another installment that takes advantage of the more modern tech we have available now. Bannerlord seeks to follow the same formula as the original. You can start off as a measly peasant and slowly earn money by performing odd jobs and serving in armies, and once you make enough of your own coin, you can eventually begin to hire out your own personal soldiers, and from there serve as a mercenary or just proceed to harass the local country people as a bandit. As you earn more and more gold doing whatever it is you decide to do, your small band becomes more like an entire army. And from there, if you've developed a strong enough relationship, you can then pledge yourself into the service of a king or lord and be given some castles to control, or just start carving out your own nation, or of course, you can still just continue to be a dick and harass the locals. There is no main quest line or story in Mount & Blade. The narrative is entirely player driven. If you want to run about sacking cities or carving out your own nation, that's all up to you. It's one of those games where if you stop and think, I wonder if I can do this, you probably can. The more you progress into the game, the greater the complexity. Bannerlord seeks to refine this formula, building off of criticisms from the original to add an even heavier layer of depth to the series, and of course providing a fresher coat of paint along with this. Now, it's difficult to go on about this game for more than a few minutes without mentioning its brilliant battle mechanic. Considering this game kind of revolves around building up armies and soldiers, it would be very disappointing if you couldn't get to see them fight. Thankfully, Bannerlord is not poised to disappoint anybody. When two armies meet, the player can assume full control over their own and join their troops in the field, either carefully giving orders from horseback dozens of meters away, or just charging into the fray with the front lines. There's a particular level of strategy involved too. You could be going up against a numerically far superior force, but if you play your cards right, victory won't ever be far from possible. The original Mount & Blade warband supported about 300 units on a battlefield at once. This was mainly due to technical limitations, but for obvious reasons, Bannerlord has a much better engine and won't have to abide by those, so it's expected that battles in warband will be able to support anywhere from 500 to 2,000 independent soldiers at the least. This greatly exceeds the battles we've seen in games like Elder Scrolls or Fallout, where there's maybe a dozen or so soldiers firing at each other from either side. The map Bannerlord takes place on is based off of the original, and in fact, Bannerlord is a prequel taking place about 2,000 years before warband. However, the map has obviously been expanded more. More land, more cities, more forts, more pretty much everything. And it all looks very promising. The original Mount & Blade did something very unique. It combined traditional RPG elements with those of an RTS to make for these amazing battles and these kingdom-building sort of scenarios, and I'm excited to see Warband do the same. When Bethesda tried to combine different things in Fallout 4, it felt as though the game couldn't decide whether or not it was an RPG or an FPS. But Mount & Blade has always been able to combine elements that seem like they wouldn't fit together pretty well and actually make them work into something unique, and that's pretty amazing. So as you can imagine, I'm very excited. This is certainly the type of game that appeals to me. I love the medieval era and the layer of freedom that this game seems to want to give players. Bannerlord will most probably be one of those games that helps fill the void left in my heart by Bethesda over 2018. That is all provided the game is able to live up to the legacy of its predecessors, which the developer Tailworld Games seems pretty hellbent on making a reality. They continuously delayed this game despite them having numerous opportunities to release it in a playable state, not because they had to, but because they wanted to make this thing good. And while delays are generally very frustrating for the consumer base, I'm still glad to see this developer take the franchise seriously and not want to damage its reputation. Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord is poised for a release date in either very late 2017 or early 2018. The developer Tailworld Games have previously stated they're shooting for 2018, but again, they might miss that, so we'll have to see. Hopefully they get the earlier of the two release dates, but I mean, we don't really have a choice if they don't, so oh well. But with that, we're gonna wrap up. I hope you all enjoyed. If so, a like rating is always very much appreciated, and leave a comment down below too with your thoughts on this game. Does Mount & Blade look entertaining to you if you haven't played it before, or what was your experience with the game if you have? Again, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you all in my next video. Peace out, everybody.